First tonight, could it be possible that hundreds of homes here in Stoke-On-Trent were knocked down because somebody got their sums wrong? Well, we've been adding up the figures and talking to some of the people displaced by demolition in a programme that was meant to regenerate the city. Mark Glover-Jones used to live in Waterloo Street, Stoke-On-Trent. He didn't want to move, but the council decided to demolish the streets around him in a plan to regenerate the city. He left when vandals started setting light to homes in neighbouring Tinton Street and the pigeons moved into the house next door.
When we first moved there, it was a really good house. All neighbours looked after each other. Any problems they dealt with, you know, it was a really good house, really well built, really nice, really. Didn't want to live in a house, really.
Mark now lives in a tall, thin, three-storey house that he and his wife don't like nearly as much, with single glazed rusty windows and a kitchen that needs replacing. He owned his old house, but the council have a 30% stake in the new one because he couldn't get a mortgage. When he walks past the derelict land where he once lived, he has little confidence in the future.
Stoke is never going to improve because of the fact that things just never change. The same problems happen time and time again. They knock houses down and they do nothing with the land for so long that they end up just being wasteland.
A short walk from Mark's old terraced house is Ludlow Street. While one side of the road is still standing, the other side has been knocked down or boarded up, leaving bits of wallpaper flapping in the wind. The whole regeneration programme, known as Renew, stalled halfway through a 15-year plan when the coalition government came in and stopped the money. It's left people like Florence Walker in limbo, living in a bizarre landscape.
I've spent a fortune on my house over the years, and luckily my house is stopping, but the only thing is, if you look around the area, it is not in a nice area anymore. It looks as though I live in Beirut.
Large-scale demolition of Stoke and compulsory purchases began under Labour in an attempt to bring the local housing stock up to modern standards. Many of the properties were cold and damp, and a falling population meant that 1 in 10 wasn't even lived in, while others belonged to landlords who rented them out to a transient population. Renew was an attempt to breathe some life back into a city which had been long neglected.
Stoke has had 30 years of decline. This is not new. We haven't been able to arrest that decline, but we have been able to take the edge off it and to bring certain areas back into use and to create employment. In future, we won't be able to do that. What we are looking at is decline without government support and perhaps unmanaged decline as well.
But in the face of bleak predictions of a total housing market collapse, was knocking whole streets full of houses down the best way forward? A few weeks ago, Prince Charles visited Stoke-On-Trent and asked the council why they were pulling down the Victorian heritage homes around the pottery his trust is supporting. Could the answer be that somewhere someone couldn't add up? Well, we've been doing some number crunching on the options costed before homes were demolished here in Slater Street, and they included comprehensive renovation or demolition. But we've discovered in the assessment for renovation a positive figure representing the increased market value of renovated homes was actually added to the costs when it should have been taken away. And that made renovation appear £14 million more expensive than it actually was. The council points out the mistake was noted in the 2006 public inquiry, but the inspector came out in favour of clearance, having decided the future value of homes couldn't be predicted, adding that householders couldn't be forced to renovate them anyway. But we've spoken to experts who say you can't do a financial assessment without taking the benefits into account as well as the costs. One even did the sums again, finding more mistakes and showing that even if you discounted the increased market value figure, renovation would still have been £9 million cheaper. In Middleport, Ted Owen campaigned to keep most of the old streets, demolishing only those beyond repair.
I think Renew had a wonderful opportunity with the money in which they'd got to invest in a community in a way of refurbishment, and we had it all costed out, which would have costed something in the region of £20,000 per property. And to demolish some of it, to open up the area, to refurbish another set of Coronation Street, if you like. That was the way forward, and there should be an epitaph placed somewhere for no staff renew in the City Council, that you came in and whatever you did was very poor. What you did actually was fail. That's what you did, and that should be your epitaph. No staff renew.
For customers at the traditional hole-in-the-wall Oatcake shop in Waterloo Street, demolition has blighted lives and destroyed communities.
It's like part of the heritage is going. So to somebody who come in from outside, they wouldn't know really what Stoke-On-Trent was about.
What is it about?
Well, it was about the pottery, whereas now it's probably more known for Stoke, the football club, really.
The community's just gone, hasn't it? It's just derelict here at the moment. All this space needs filling up.
In the middle of a demolished area, the hole in the wall is the last shop selling oatcakes in the traditional way, through the window of an ordinary house.
The regeneration was handled very poorly, I think, because number one, they told us originally it was going to be a 15-year plan. 7 years down the line, and it's fell apart, hasn't it? And now all the renew have closed down and everybody's jumped ship, haven't they? So that leaves people like myself. I'm getting purged now to sort myself out and get out of here. And where I go, I don't know, because they want us out of the way so that they can clear the ground. But where do we go? We're at a bit of a loss, really.
I think you've got to take into account that actually at the time at which the programme developed, and it wasn't just here, it was across a number of northern cities, particularly in Stoke-On-Trent, we had over 3,000 empty properties and we were losing population at the rate of 1,000 residents a year. So actually the trends were going the other way. We were actually going to have more empty properties if we didn't do something to stop a complete housing market collapse that had happened in parts of Manchester and parts of Salford and Newcastle. So we actually needed to do something quickly to actually get the confidence back to developers and to residents that actually we're actually trying to deal with the situation and build something positive from the investment that we can put into it.
But before they could finish the investment, the government stopped the promised money. For Brendan Nevin, it was a vote of no confidence in the area.
Ideologically, this government doesn't believe in intervention. It believes in letting places sink or swim, depending on how competitive they are. Large parts of the Midlands and the north of England aren't competitive, and at the moment they're being left to sink rather than swim, I suspect.
Housing Minister Grant Shapps turned down our request for an interview. Instead, he issued a statement denying abandoning Stoke, saying the money was stopped because renewal wasn't working. He said the government is committed to helping residents who are stranded in derelict neighbourhoods and had announced a £30 million lifeline, which will be allocated shortly. As the council too promises there will soon be action in the areas currently left in limbo, one idea being put forward by Tom Archer from the Community Land Trust is to allow local groups to take over some of the assets and rebuild their communities themselves, attracting funding from ethical lenders and government grants.
Show me another option, because we have no housing market renewal money. Local authority budgets are eye-wateringly kind of tight at the minute. You have developers that are quite rightly reticent about investing in these areas, stepping back. So we need to think about creative options, and I think this is one that we can test. Realistically, I think it will be like this in 5-10 years. I don't think anything will have changed, and that's the reason I'm suggesting the things that I'm suggesting and trying to work with groups to do it, because leaving the land vacant like this is perhaps the worst option. We know that it drains public resources. We know that, for the neighbouring residents, it's not great living adjacent to land like this. So the emphasis has to be on doing something rather than just leaving it.
For people still living with Stoke's boarded up streets, it may seem amazing that all this could have happened because someone couldn't add up. And many of them don't have any confidence in the future mathematical skills of our leaders both local and national.
We've had various people tell us things, but the main one is down to the fact that the value of the land was worth more with a house not on it than it is with a house on it. And people were set to make a lot of money, and unfortunately we were in the way.
Well, I think they should get the priorities right and make it a decent area like it was before, and not keep saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we get nothing done. The problem being is everybody who makes these decisions, not one of them have to live with it 24 hours a day, and we have to.
And you can join in the debate on BBC Radio Stoke tomorrow morning. Full details are on our Facebook page, Inside Out West Midlands, where you can also leave your comments.